fell in love with this celebration because of certain movies.
Te amo y más. Ella con su triste canto te acompañará.
Or just want to know more but can't find a lot of information about it because you don't speak Spanish and, well, there isn't a lot of information on English. You came to the almost right place. I'll be your guide and I will try to answer all your questions. The Dia de Muertos, the amazing and colorful Mexican tradition honoring the dead, always catching the attention of foreigners, but what about it? How did it start? Well, long time ago there was this culture on what now we call Mexico and some parts of Central America, called the Mexicas, Totonacas, Purépechas, Mayans, to name just a few. Among these cultures, the cult to the dead was important. For example, the Mexicas or Aztecs had 6 different celebrations around the dead. One of them lasted an entire month, and it was dedicated to Mictlantecuhtli, goddess of death and queen of the Mictlan or land of the dead. Also, the Mexicas didn't believe in hell or heaven on the Christian sense. They thought that the way you died was your destiny on the afterlife. First of all, when you die, the god Tlantecutli has to eat you, so you leave behind your corpse and find your final destination. The men that died on war or were sacrificed were honored to become the bodyguards of the sun god, Tonatiuh, from dawn to midday. Then the warrior woman and those who died on childbirth, Karen Musiwaketzke, took their places from midday to the twilight. Both of these men and women lived on the Tonatiuh Ilhualicac, or the sun house. Also, the commerciants that served as spies and warriors lived here. These people had to work for the sun as warriors against the forces of darkness for 80 days. After 4 years, they became hummingbirds. That's why they are considered messengers between this world and the afterlife. The second afterlife destination was reserved for those who died because of water or sickness related to it, or if you had died struck by a thunder, like the people with mange, leprosy, and so on. This destiny was Tlalocan, Tlaloc's heaven, good of rain and fertility. This was full of amazing food. What else could you ask for? Like food, pools, rainy days, and maybe dolls and boys and swimming seat. Total heaven if you ask me. The third destination was Chichihualcauco, a wet nurse tree that takes care of the babies that died too soon, awaiting for their time to come back to this world. Yeah, I know it's too sad, but at least it had another chance. The rest of the people that died because of being too old, natural causes, accidents, or any cause not related to water, went to live to the Mictlan, with Mictlantecuhtli and Mictlancihuatl. This was a desolated place and you have to travel 4 years, facing 8 great dangers. And finally you had to cross the river Chiconahuapan, help by a dog sacrifice to help you on your travel. The Xolo or Xoliscuintle. Who is a good boy? I am so sure you're going to find a destiny. Anyway, once you finish your travel, you had to give some gift to Mictlantecuhtli, like cotton, colorful threads, and blankets. So when you died, you were impaired with things that you liked when you were alive and things that you were going to need on your travel. The reason why I explain this is because nowadays in Mexico there is not a Dia de los Muertos, but more like a Semana de los Muertos, or Week of the Dead, starting on October 28th, where they celebrate people that had a certain kind of death depending on the day. The first day is for those who died suddenly or died on an accident or on a violent way. October 29 is for those who died drowned. October 30 is for the forgotten or those who don't have a family that can put an ofrenda for them. So yeah, that Coco and Book of Life plot about being forgotten and the big deal about it is just a way to give some drama to the story. Because even on the normal ofrendas we make a space called the Anima Sola for those that doesn't have someone to remember them. Maybe Mexican culture is so much about the more the merrier that it includes our afterlives. On October the 31st, they remember the kids that died on the womb or without the christening. November 1st and November 2nd are holiday on the entire country. On the first day we remember kids and teenagers, and on November 2nd we remember the adults. But if we're in a hurry, everyone is celebrating on November 2nd because we have that day off. Going back to history, on 1521, the conquistadors came and with them the Catholic religion. After being harassed with the traditions of the native cultures, the missionaries decided to make the celebration to be around the time of the festivity of All Saints, because they noticed that the native populations were really against losing their traditions and identity, so they had to do their best to evangelize them. This mix doesn't stop on Dia de Muertos, it's even part of our culinary culture. The Catholicism here is different from other Catholic countries. Our dances, the piñatas, Christmas, everything. And since not all Mexico was Aztec, Jalisco, where I live, had a lot of cultures, like the Toltecas, Huachichiles, Caxcanes, and the Cocas, or the conquistadors with a lot of their kingdoms. So the culture is even different from state to state, or from one city to another. Anyway, on the city of Mexico during the colonial years and the first century of independence, there was a lot of diseases taking the lives of its population by the thousands. So the cemeteries were outside of the city, or what was the outside of the city along its long history. So around 1859, the tradition of visiting the tombs and putting flowers and candles on them around November 1st or 2nd was established. On the mornings, the high society went to the tombs, dressed in their finest black clothes, and on the evening, the poorest people went to commemorate their loved ones. So we can say that Dia de Muertos comes on two flavors: cemetery, when you go and visit your loved ones and make your ofrenda there, like in the beginning of Book of Life and some scenes from Coco, or home, when you make your ofrenda on your own house, like the Riveras on Coco. And once again, every state has their own traditions. For example, on Campeche, the families went together to clean the bones of their loved ones, and they also put new clothing on them. On Oaxaca, they make carpets with sawdust and sand, and they stay all night long on the cemetery, like in Coco, and they dance, wine, and dine, or mezcal, beer, and dine. Bad joke. On Yucatan, they put candles on the ofrenda, behind the trees of the house, and on the tombs, and there's a lot of masses to honor kids, adults, and the animas, or the souls that are on purgatory. On Michoacan, the celebration starts with Curizatacua, which is a dog hunting on the Pátzcuaro Lake, and they cook the dogs. On the state of Mexico, yes, we have a state name like that, they make a representation of the Mictlan on the park Xochitla, and they make a representation of the ancestral ball game. Did you know that the UNESCO protects the festivity? As it has origins on the native cultures of Mexico, it has to be protected to keep intact their meaning. In their words, this annual reunion between the people that celebrate it and their ancestors has a social function that remembers the place of the individual on a group and contributes to affirm the identity. But enough with history, you may want to know about the ofrendas or altares de muerto. Well, that will take another video because this one is already too long. Thank you for watching and see you soon. Adios!